velocity that we're moving along today is unheard of in the industry. And to keep pace with the state of change, you have to make radical bets on what the future of this industry ends up looking like. Over the past few years, we've made big bets in all of our technology, across the full breadth of our technology platforms. Over the past 12 months, we have launched significant products aligned with every product category in which we participate. Versio is a completely modular, integrated playout platform. On top of Versio, we've launched integrated virtualized master control. We've launched optimized storage systems, which are industry-leading in capacity, performance, and price. We've launched our Selenium product line. So we've launched USIP gateways that allow customers to move seamlessly back and forth under network control from baseband networks to IP networks. We've launched, also in our Selenium product line, we've launched our encoding and transcoding platforms, where we've taken what used to run in FPGAs and hardware, and we've run that now purely in software, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. In our Platinum router line, so we have the most scalable and most flexible router on the planet. We can build out to larger scale. We can include services inside the router, which our competitors can't. We put IP directly inside the router, and that IP framework that runs inside the router can run compressed services like TCO and Sony NMI. It can also run 2022 and later this year 2110 out of that same core router. So you can invest today in a router which can scale up to very large sizes, and you can over time you can move through this hybrid network topology onto a pure IP network, and it works seamlessly with our partners from Cisco and Arista. We launched Epic. Epic is a groundbreaking IP multiviewer. It's more than just an IP multiviewer. It is a new way to look at multiviewing. We built it in such a way that we can build a cluster of compute that can catch all the feeds that you have running around inside the plant. And in software, it can produce all the PIPs that you need wherever you need them in the plant for operational monitoring and control. So we can build a cloud of video PIPs, which, by the way, are all standards-based. So these are not just some proprietary format of little individual frames flying around the network. And they're not low-quality, low-frame rate PIPs. These are high-quality PIPs that are flying around the network in RFC 4175, which means the evolution of that is that you're going to have thousands, potentially thousands of 2110 streams flying around the network that any operator can then sit in front of an Epic workstation and select the streams that they want to control and monitor. We've launched our Tellurio product line. So Tellurio is all about how do you take video out of the channels that we create inside the network, and how do we align that to subscribers? So in the Tellurio product line, we've launched new expansions to our packager. We've launched our integrated advertising, dynamic advertising system, and we've launched our recording capabilities. And these are the crux of what you need if you're going to be delivering in an OTT environment. This is how you're going to monetize content. You need the ability to store content. You need the ability to do catch-up television. You need the ability to target your advertising to thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers. And today we're serving tens of millions of subscribers with the Tellurio platform. And this represents the last mile, the fulfillment of how you're going to deliver to your customers. And it's not just about dynamic ad insertion, although that's a really important part of the Tellurio platform. It's also about dynamic content. So we believe that over time, that you're going to start seeing not just ad substitution dynamically at the edge of the network, you're also going to see content substitution. So personalized channels as well as personalized advertising. Today, we run that in the network with our MVPD partners as blackout management. So on a subscriber by subscriber basis, based on the package that they have, we can black out sports, or we can swap in alternate content on the fly. And we've also launched updates to our XG advertising product line, which Sarah's going to talk a little bit more about. So I've got really three focuses that I want to talk to you about today. One of them is Selenium 1. So we've taken all of our compression technologies which used to, like if you look at networks 3 or 4 years ago, all these compression technologies were split across the network. You had primary distribution and secondary distribution. You had OTT, all running as separate services in the network. And this is where you created this fabric where you were touching content 2, 3, 4 times. In fact, we went out to our customers and did a survey. How many times are you touching your content, as part of your overall workflow in order to deliver it to wherever it needs to go? And we found out that some of our customers are compressing their content as much as 10 times. And that's just not an efficient way to run your networks. And it's not an efficient way to run your networks when you've got 2 or 3 different or 4 different operational platforms from 2 or 3 different vendors. So Selenium One is a way that we can capture the art of encoding and transcoding and soon splicing into one platform, one operational platform that you can run at the edge of the network, and you can deliver all content outputs. So you can deliver primary distribution, secondary distribution, OTT, you can deliver fragmented traffic, linear streams, and we have that scalable everywhere from very high quality running on specific platforms to very high density. So we have a version of this that runs on HP Moonshot where we can run 180 linear HD feeds simultaneously inside of one 4RU chassis, delivering over 720 output profiles. So Selenium One is a pure software platform, and that's also groundbreaking in that we can hit those kinds of densities with high quality in a software platform that runs on a COTS, in a COTS environment, can run locally, on-prem, or in a cloud environment. The next thing I want to talk about is a Selenium network processor. So we sent out a press release about this the other day. This is our gateway processor. This is our next generation bridging technology for taking baseband networks and moving them into the back and forth from baseband to the IP realm. So as an IP gateway, we've added the support for up to 8 simultaneously UHD streams, all running over 100 gig ports, dual redundant 100 gig ports. We have 32 3 gig HD BNCs on the back, so you can connect up the other side of your network. And the beauty of this platform is that we've integrated completely with the same technology that we're using for running our playout fabric and our Selenium One encoder and transcoder, which is our Xenium technology platform. So we actually have inside of this traditional 1RU box a programmable architecture that runs split between FPGAs and multi-core processors, which is running the same software technology that we run in COTS compute, both locally and in the cloud. So everything that we do, we're sticking to this notion of open standards and standardizing around one technology platform. And in the case of the S&P, the Selenium Network Processor, we've managed to accomplish that. Our third announcement is here.
Tap the power of pure microservices technology. Customize and modify cloud-native applications that keep you on the cutting edge. Unleash revenue-generating potential by eliminating technological limitations. Seize all the opportunities of the new digital economy. Dream it. Deploy it. Transform your business with Open Xenium.
So Open Xenium. Open Xenium is this new initiative that we're launching here at NAB. You're going to hear a lot. Over the past few years, you've heard a whole raft of buzzwords. You've heard about the transition to IP. You've heard about standards 2022-6 and -7. You've heard about 2110. You've heard about virtualization was the topic du jour last year at this trade show. This year, it's about microservices. What is a microservice? A microservice is the opposite of how we've built software for 25 years or 30 years. Microservices is the notion that instead of building monolithic applications and then running them on a piece of COTS hardware or running them inside of an appliance, is that you break down the individual functionality of microservices into units that can perform those functionality on their own. And so you take something like a Selenium, the Selenium network processor. If you've got a video input inside that processor, you have a piece of software that's only responsible for video input. And if you want to go to IP output, then you have another piece of software that's only responsible for IP output. And so instead of having an entire platform just to transcode from one standard to another standard, you take these two microservices and you couple them together into a virtualized process that you can then turn around and run in the network. So that's what a microservice is. It's this notion that by looking at the big picture and breaking down complex applications into smaller chunks, and then repurposing those chunks into services that you wanted to run in the network, you can run more efficiently, you can run more dynamically, and you can create tremendous amounts of flexibility in your network. And that's why everybody at this show is excited about microservices. This is how Google runs their network. This is how Facebook and Netflix and companies like that, this is how they run their network. So if you want to know how they get efficiency out of the network, it's because of microservices. So we've been running a pure microservices environment for over 7 years. We've been developing microservices. We saw the future of what cloud was going to look like, and we invested into a framework for managing microservices 7 years ago. Over the past 7 years, we've been refining those microservices, and we've been tailoring them in a way that's specific to our environment. You can't take technology from Google, wrap up an old style of application, smash the two together, and expect it to perform in a cloud environment. You won't get what you expect. You won't have the control, you won't have the efficiency, you won't have the granularity you need to run that service. Conversely, broadcast has a bunch of very specific requirements. We need real time. We need synchronized clocks across multiple applications. We need to be dynamic and flexible in our network. We need to be able to run multiple processes on the same machine. So in order to achieve all of these things, we invested in this framework. Today we have over 1,000 components that we've written for this framework, and every one of the products that I launched with, that I started with, every one of those products is actually built out of that microservices technology. So here at the trade show, we're announcing that we are actually going to share with our customers and our partners the source code for how we build every one of our Xenium-powered products. This is the first time in the industry that a major vendor has said, here are the keys. Here's the way that we build our products, and we're doing it in an environment of collaboration, we're doing it in an environment of innovation, and we're doing it in an environment that guarantees success between ourselves and our partners. So if microservices are all about flexibility and customization, and we're willing to share this technology, what's the benefit for the customer? So you're a customer, and you bought into one of our platforms, and call it a playout server. You've got data that you want to integrate into that playout service chain. Traditionally, what you would have had to do is put out a playout server, and then you would have had to buy a second piece of technology and string it together just to add some kind of bumper or graphic or weather icons or whatever it is you're going to do. With OpenXenium, you're going to be able to reach inside the blueprints that we use to generate Versa. You're going to be able to reorder components in a way that makes sense for your business, for your service. And we'll work with you to help you modify those blueprints to integrate the data directly inside the platform. This creates levels of efficiency and performance that you cannot get any other way. So this is an all-new era for the industry. We started out 3-4 years ago with a message of moving to IP. And we started with a message of a commitment to open standards. And today we're launching an initiative that's all about transparency. It's all about collaborating with our customers and partners to move this industry faster, to marry the best of breed technologies from enterprise computing, marry it up to the technical requirements of the broadcast industry, to put those two things together into a program that allows our customers to be successful. On our booth at the show, we actually have I won't get into the primer. At our booth of the show, I invite everybody to come down. We're giving a Xenium Master Class where we'll teach you about the power of microservices, and we're going to do live demonstrations on stage where we start with a raw palette of undefined service, and we're going to build and modify that service in front of you and show you what microservices can do in your network environment. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Foss, and I'm actually the brick of the business side of a broadcast facility. And I say it that way because actually one of the most unique things about Imagine is the fact that we truly do have the end-to-end ecosystem, all the way from how a media company prices and plans and proposes to an agency or an advertiser a campaign through the delivery of the content, whether it's a commercial or an advertisement, or the programming to a different device. So my responsibility is to truly drive what we call the advertising management systems business. It is all of that front end, how do we make money as a media company? Or, as you've heard Charlie and Brick talk about the amazing opportunities and the platforms that we're launching here for true technology innovation, I like to say that they're the what, the how, and the where of media. What is my business? The why. We're here because, frankly, most media companies are actually trying to make money. And if you believe it or not, I actually started in broadcast engineering. What I learned is that how we actually get the content from one place to another is fascinating. It's a complex problem to solve. Why we do it is really a different challenge, and frankly, every single time we talk about technology innovation, something like microservices, which is truly going to make an evolution of how we can actually run broadcast and media facilities, I get excited about thinking about all the ways that people are going to pay us money to do it. Why do subscribers or viewers or listeners want to have that content? They want to engage with a media content provider, and that media content provider wants to enable those audiences to actually connect to the advertiser as well. That's what we've been working on in the advertising management systems part of Imagine. We've been thinking about the why. Why are we going to implement these new technologies? And frankly, why do audiences want to actually connect with those media companies? So there are lots of ways that the why becomes really important, because the technology transformation that we have been embarking on, not only at Imagine, but as an industry, in my humble opinion, it's not half as fascinating nor as challenging as the business problems we're now going to solve. How does a media company get to monetize, make money off that programming and those commercial advertisements across a linear stream, a VOD stream? How do they target to a mobile phone that's different in Poughkeepsie, New York, to all the way to Paris, France? These are things that now the business of media is transforming, and we actually have a lot of things within the AMS side of the business that we've been working on to be as efficient and to give a lot of new services and the why back to the media company. Things like, how do you actually optimize your inventory? Now that inventory is going to explode across all of these different platforms, we can send it to a mobile device, we can send it to a cloud DVR, we can send content and commercials, and we can actually target them to the viewer or the listener anywhere that they are. We have to be able to give the media company a way to really make more money and optimize that inventory across any platform. And that's because we at Imagine are the only company that starts at the business of advertising and goes all the way through the infrastructure. We have a complete advanced advertising ecosystem. So the way that we approach how people make money and why they're going to make money and where they're going to get that content to is very different than the rest of the space. Because we've actually always looked at those platforms as things that we know. Why? We actually have solutions that distribute content for both linear television streams or digital video or over-the-top solutions, or things we call nonlinear, right? So we truly are a multi-platform company. And we think about that not only in the why do we need to do that? To get all of those new great services and the programs and the targeted advertising to different viewers and listeners. But we have to do so in a way that is just as efficient as what Open Xenium is going to enable the infrastructure part of the media company to do. We have to have robust real-time integration for scheduling systems, for inventory systems, for how we actually enable scalable advertising and traffic management across all of those disparate platforms. Those sound like a lot of those buzzwords that we're talking about with advanced advertising, but they all matter because the business is transforming, and it's transforming in a very different way than technology. Technology is now enabling all sorts of different ways to get audiences connected to a media company to connect to an advertiser. See, we're all about connecting the audience, and that's the why a media company wants to actually use new platforms. As much as now we are going to enable these new platforms to be monetized by media companies, it means all of the market segments that we are in at Imagine, they're converging. Our business models are becoming more and more similar. And as they become more similar, we at Imagine, just like we're the only company that has an end-to-end view of how a media company makes money and how they actually distribute so that they can monetize that. But we also work with global enterprises, folks like Sky and Discovery and MCN, clients that have been using inventory optimization and impression-based selling for almost a decade. We've been working with the North American MVPDs, Comcast Spotlight, Spectrum Reach, Altice. They have been targeting advertising to geographic zones for a decade. And we've also been working with North American broadcast groups, folks like Sinclair, who as they continue to actually buy more and more stations, get bigger and bigger, they're looking at solving their advertising and their management problems through centralization and using automation and workflow to make their sales teams and their traffic teams smarter. Those are three very different pieces that when they come together, enable the media company to actually attack the why. Why do I want to go into VOD? Why do I want to actually look at OTT? Why is targeting and dynamic ad insertion important to me? And we're taking all of those different business problems we've solved and putting them together. So just as much as Brick gets to talk about the really exciting announcement around Open Xenium and how we are going to revolutionize how we actually employ the infrastructure and make it more efficient, I get to talk about how we're going to transform the business by stitching all of these platforms together. And one of the things we're excited about here at NAB this year is what we're calling unified scheduling, playout, and distribution. Yes, that is a mouthful. No, we did not make an acronym. If any one of you comes up with an acronym, please let us know, because it's very hard to say. But what it really is taking those hows, the what content, how it needs to get somewhere, and where it needs to get there, and stitch it together with the business rules. So what we're showing is how trafficking, how scheduling is going to now control not just what content goes where and how it gets there, but also what's the branding? How does it look? What are the business rules that in real time can actually be automated throughout the infrastructure so that a company can actually make a choice at the last minute to make more money from their inventory, to actually make changes in the advertising or the programming from the business systems that then automatically populate all of the infrastructure systems across all of those disparate platforms. You see, we want to get smart. We want our customers to make money across all of their different platforms, but do so based on business rules that actually should be governing all of those different platforms. We're unifying disparate systems and using the logic from the business side, the advertising side, to do so. And this becomes really important for ATSC 3.0. I talked about business convergence, how actually the global enterprise and the MVPDs and the North American broadcasters are actually going to start monetizing their advertising and programming similarly. Well, nothing is going to transform that more for the North American broadcasters than ATSC 3.0. This set of standards is going to ensure that a North American broadcaster can actually leverage the what, the how, and the where into so many new whys, into so many new ways that they can now actually have dynamic ad insertion over the airwaves to a geographic region. And not just take one DMA, but split up that market into multiple zones so that I can even have hyper-localized advertising content into wherever I have stations. It's going to enable them to, in essence, have broadband-based services over the air. These are brand new ways that a station group can actually create new ways of connecting the advertisers and their programming directly to their audience. And we are very excited to be announcing at the show how we're working with the Sinclair Broadcast Group to create a reference architecture that not only stitches together things like unified playout scheduling and distribution. Again, if you've got an acronym, let me know. But it also helps us with the advertising and how they're going to really monetize all of those different services that they've never been able to do before. This is truly something that we know a lot of folks around the show are going to be talking about, a piece of the ATSC 3.0 puzzle. What we have it imagine is the true ecosystem, so it's not just how we can actually enable them to leverage the new set of standards, but why they want to do so as a North American broadcaster, to monetize services in a way to connect audience to them like they've never done before. And to walk you through how we're actually going to show that, I'm pleased to introduce our fantastic CMO, Glodina, who is going to tell you a little bit about the booth.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming. I know it's the end of a long day, so we appreciate you coming here. So, never a dull moment for me and for the team in marketing at Imagine. As you can see, we have so many things to talk about, so many things that make Imagine really unique in the industry, from the advertising all the way to the OTT distribution portfolio. So that's why it's going to be important for you all to come and learn more about our solutions on the booth. And we obviously have moved location, I'm sure you have seen. We're now in the South Hall, and we're going to dedicate a good third of our booth to first the demonstrations of those next generation technologies, and they're not just future things, they are available today. So that's what we're focusing on, is demonstrating technologies that work today to deliver the future of TV. So things around live, playout, multi-screen, and advertising you will see on the booth. And we'll have also, I strongly recommend you take some time. If you want to have like an overview of everything we do, we have a fantastic enhanced interactive end-to-end future of TV video wall, which you can see here at the top. So it's a stopping point to see everything we do. And then the other thing that we're going to focus on, the other part of our booth, is thought leadership with our power sessions and the masterclass. So Brick referenced the Xenium masterclass, which is a new thing. We thought that the industry really would benefit from learning more about how microservices can be applied to the broadcast industry. So we'll have that once a day, every morning, on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then in the afternoon, at lunch, and then later in the afternoon, we'll have a power session. And as you can tell, we'll cover all the key topics that makes us unique in the industry, covering from everything to ATSC 3.0 that Sarah just presented, and how we provide that end-to-end solution, and having Sinclair on the panel, to Cloud Playout, how that's going in the field with real-life implementations. And of course, Charlie on Tuesday will present a great panel with people from Disney, Viacom, Fox, and a couple more, for the future of television. How could I do this? And then we will also have a dedicated live IP sort of sports and production panel, which is an update on everything that's going on, where we'll have our customer TPC, which we recently announced and that Brick talked about with the Selenium network processor. And then the next day, we'll talk again about optimization in a fireside chat environment with our guest from Sky. So Sarah will host, and she will again explain what we can learn from projects that we've done elsewhere that are now applicable here. And finally, I will host an OTT panel with a very interesting use case. We will have the American Theater Company explaining to us how bringing live streaming for Broadway is creating new revenue opportunities. And I will also have a guest from Viacom also sharing with us what they are planning to do on OTT. So a lot of great things that we have planned on our booth, and strongly encourage you to come and join us for those. And the third part of our booth, because we designed it in a way that had, demonstration, experiencing the products and solution, then learn about the thought leadership, the solutions that we have, and learn from our customers how they are implementing their transition. And then we are focusing on customer engagement. We have more than 140 customer meetings, so we expect to have a very busy booth, and I look forward to meet every one of you over there. I know we have a number of press briefings already arranged, so with that, I would like to open up for a quick Q&A.
I mean, Open Xenium really has evolved over the last couple of years from our customers becoming a lot more educated in the fabric by which we were developing a lot of our next generation playout OTT and ad management architectures in such a way that there's things that they certainly want to benefit from, but there's certain things that they actually want to either develop on their own or bring in third parties to be able to develop that isn't something that we're going to develop, that now opening up that software code, as Brick articulated, gives them a unique way to build the network of the future. And to a certain degree, if you're familiar with Red Hat, over a decade ago, it's a bit of a page from the past that's really very applicable to today, that we have, through our Innovation Advisory Board. We have 35 CTOs that we get together 3 times a year that we've been talking to them about for really 18 months. And I think that this is not only going to go over in a big way with the larger tier ones, but we think that it's going to create a new dynamic for the entire industry. It's a big decision for us to make, but we think it's a huge game changer for us. There are parameters. Certainly, somebody can't just take the code and go build their own platform. There are, we certainly own the keys and the software keys, and there's certainly restrictions by which they can do certain things with the software. But it certainly will give them the opportunity to build a network that they wouldn't be able to have built in the past.
Just to follow on, are you open sourcing this software? And if so, is there a particular license it's being open sourced under?
We are explicitly not open sourcing the software. I mean, it wouldn't do a lot of people a lot of good. So first off, the open source community is driven by the fact that nobody makes money on Linux. People make money supporting Linux, but they don't make money on Linux. We make money, building networks, building technologies, building platforms, building services that our customers consume. We're not here to try to, reinvent computing or reinvent the network or release the source code out in the wild for the purpose of doing something outside of our space. We're here to work with our customers in an environment where we can foster education, foster support, and help them achieve their goals in designing their networks much faster than they otherwise would have been able to.
Actually, the single biggest challenge to getting to this point, because we've been talking about OpenZinium for over a year, is the support infrastructure. So let's assume that tomorrow we have 10 customers, and 6 months from now we have 20 customers, and all of a sudden we have 50 customers that are building their own blueprints based on Xinium. You could argue that there's 50 different support cases that as a company we have to be prepared to be able to support, and there's a lot of thought and ingenuity that's gone into that.
Yeah, anybody who wants to talk more in depth about some of the plans that we have, I welcome you to stop by the booth, and we'll get into a conversation about how we've thought about it and why we think that the architecture that we're moving forward with in sharing and collaboration and transparency is the right one for the industry.
But certainly everything that ABC Disney is doing is all based on Xinium, and all of our next generation Versio and Selenium and our OTT
Epic
platforms, Epic, which is our next generation management architecture, and multi-viewers is all based on Xinium.
I want to ask Sarah about the advertising. Is it a complete end-to-end system, or at what point do you pick up? In other words, I'm asking, do you also deal with the programmatic as well as the DAI, or do you even back up further than that and deal with the metadata analysis to understand where then to go to the programmatic and then from there to DAI?
Great question. So what Imagine has is the full end-to-end ecosystem for the media seller, which means it's everything from the pricing, the planning, the proposing the campaign, all the way through the execution of the campaign, and then the financial transaction, which includes the verification, the billing, all of that about the campaign. Then, of course, we actually have a very robust analytics platform that enables a media seller to not only integrate things like the metrics that we use today, Nielsen, ComScore, set-top box data, but then really turn that into robust business intelligence so that then when we start the cycle again with how are we going to price and plan and propose a campaign, we're doing so on some very robust data that is not only historical, but very much a forecasting and forward-looking. How we currently work with programmatic exchanges today is because we have really entrenched ourselves in the view of the media seller needs to control its inventory. We work with all the media exchanges. So how a media seller wants to expose the inventory or even participate in an exchange is something that we work with our clients on, and they say we want to work with AOL TV, we want to work with this proprietary one at an agency, doesn't matter. We then say, what is the components, the inventory, the metadata, or just simple automation of the buy and sell process that you'd like to do with that exchange, and that's what we enable. We actually don't have a programmatic exchange. We don't plan on doing that because there are a number of very field-proven, robust programmatic exchanges in the marketplace. We're there to help the media seller actually monetize the inventory and then execute the campaign, whether it's from a direct sales team or a programmatic exchange.
I think the most important thing that you all can take away that we've done and achieved over the last 3 years across our entire portfolio is we've created an open, modular software platform architecture. I mean, you sort of heard what Brick talked about with what he's doing with our playout networking and OTT architecture, and very similar. What Sarah's been doing over the last 2.5 years with our ad management portfolio is very different from what Wide Orbit and Syntec and others are doing with their proprietary, very monolithic closed advertising platform. We've taken an approach where we're moving to an open modular design where we can actually participate in networks in best-of-breed software modules independent of where they are in their life cycle. So we've launched next generation, traffic and billing, next generation rights and scheduling, next generation sales campaigns, next generation billings, to where you don't have to buy this closed proprietary, traffic and scheduling platform that is very challenging for a lot of the larger TV networks and broadcast stations to endure. But moreover, you can participate in next generation modular designs that allow us to, frankly, build the network as the applications are applicable within their overall design.
When you're up there giving your presentation, you mentioned geographic in terms of DMA and even down further. Do you also deal then with psychographic information so that you can begin to build out the profile of the consumer more than just the geographic location aspects of it?
Absolutely. And that's why we really use the phrase connecting to the audience, because our belief is that where we're going is selling exactly that information about who is watching or who is listening, right? Or the psychographic profile. What makes up that either individual or that group of individuals? Sometimes it's just simple geography, whereby a local florist only wants to actually be broadcasting within the radius by which someone actually wants to go buy flowers or plants from. And to your point, a lot of times it's now going to be what is the audience, or what categories do I as a viewer fall into? Our global clients have been working with audience as the way that they trade currency, not ratings, for 8 years. So we have a lot of experience in that. We are not, though, going to be the ones that create the psychographic information. We take all the different sources that a media company uses, and we integrate those together so that they make the best campaign management proposal possible.
And we're finally starting to see the vision play out, no pun intended, of what we've been doing from a play-out architecture and an advanced advertising architecture. Having one company own both technologies, we're actually starting to be in a position where we actually can implement a play-out and an advanced advertising architecture to where they're starting to see the benefits of having our play-out architecture as well as our advanced advertising architecture to get things like live logs and real-time dynamic ad insertion that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do with other technologies.
And further integrated into our OTT platform.
Correct.
Such that we can start to do targeting beyond the zone and start getting down into individuals and groups. And with our unified architecture, we can actually create one workflow, and this is the work that we're doing with Sinclair. We can create one workflow where you create one output, and that one output through the advertising management process and campaign management process, we can target everything from linear TS outputs to individual people on mobile.
I don't know that everybody's been busy, people have been traveling, but I don't know that everyone has seen the press release that went out, I think, on Thursday that we jointly did with Sinclair around ATS 3.0 and the sandbox that we've created. Do you want to maybe just give a 2-minute commercial?
It's really exciting because Sinclair Broadcast Group, which of course has been very active in the ATSC 3.0 standard, recognized not only because they have our current platforms in their stations today, but going to figure out how do I monetize, take advantage of all of these new services, and create the what content, how does it get there, and to which distribution platform or which device. What company can help me come up with that new reference architecture? Well, it was Imagine. So we've established a sandbox with them, and what we're doing is enabling them to take the platforms that we have today, field proven, and show how you can actually take your advertising logic, your programming content, and, as Brooke said, manage it through one reference architecture that then still gets commercial or programming content to multiple different distribution streams that are either based on watching it on a mobile device, the programming content, the targeted individual, or the geography.
Well, it's given the broadcasters a completely different business
Exactly.
model than they've ever had before.
Exactly.
They're moving into a multi-services IP domain that gives them an opportunity to be relevant in a completely different way than they are today.
And compete in new ways that they've never been able to do.
And more
Maybe
to
one
come
more question?
tomorrow.
So you start off the press conference.
Is it still cold in Kansas City?
Spring.
It's spring.
You started off the press conference by saying 4 years ago you laid out this vision, and now here we are, and this has been fulfilled. I was just wondering, if you look at the broadcast market in the U.S., is this whole move to IP, virtualization of playout, master control, all these great things we're talking about, is this targeted primarily or exclusively at large broadcast groups?
No.
Or is there going to be room for smaller broadcasters to realize some of these benefits that we've been discussing?
You know, what's exciting for us is 2 years ago, our EMEA and Asia and even CALA sales team would say, Charlie, we've over-tilted the messaging around IP and SDN and cloud. We still need to sell all this old SDI, baseband, monolithic technology. That's what my customers want to buy. And here we are, fast forwarding time, in 2 years. In fact, I went to Broadcast Asia, last year, and there wasn't one meeting that I was in, not one, that the CTOs weren't talking about cloud or IP or software, not one. And, Matthias, who runs EMEA today, is probably more bullish on his customer landscape across all the Europe, Middle East, and Africa customers around the evolution IP than we've ever seen. I mean, in fact, the compression and the velocity of moving to these next generation IP-based architectures in the EMEA region and Asia region is happening faster than it has for North America. North America sort of gets hyped up, you go through, all of these cycles, and North America tends to go through the traditional cycle of being part of the hype, and then going through the trough, and then going through the enlightenment the Europeans and the Asians, that whole time frame just got compressed. So I would tell you that all of our regions are seeing it, they're feeling it, they're participating in it, and the reality is why is it? It's because of broadband. It's because of the infrastructure that's now being powered by wireless, and what we're doing to reinvent, the traditional over-the-air broadcasting network to be able to take advantage of a lot of these multi-services. So it's an exciting time as it relates to the participation across all the regions and all sizes of broadcasters, independent of size. In fact, I would argue that the smaller broadcaster needs this environment to participate more
Absolutely.
than they ever did before.
This is a lifeline for the small broadcaster. The move to software, virtualized services, the ability to create on-demand news services, smarter ways to reach audience, all of these things are a
Monetize
lifeline
it.
for
They're going to
people who
move
have
to a
access
cloud-based
content.
architecture faster, right? The larger networks that have 50, 100, 300 channels, it's a little harder for them to move to a virtualized cloud environment than someone who's managing 3 channels or 5 channels. And so I actually see that, to your point, it's more than a lifeline. It actually gives them, another decade to participate in a market that maybe they saw as an opportunity through the Spectrum repack to exit. So I think we're seeing a lot of excitement, and I think ATS 3.0 is real, and it's going to be something that everyone is talking about and following more and more over the next 12 to 18 months. Well, thank you very much. You guys have been awesome. We appreciate you following the company and the evolution of what we're doing to try to transform the industry, and we appreciate